It's interesting that you say that. I mean, this report says that so many children are in and out of homes, and something like 6 before the age of 7. Let's have a quick look at what the Minister of Social Development says. Anne Tolley.
These are highly traumatised kids. Most of them are simply unable to cope, and we pick them up again in the youth services. MSD picks them up. They go back into the system, but in a different way, and that's just not good enough.
It's just absolutely disturbing, isn't it? Overrepresentation, as you say, of Māori kids in the system. Some 57% of kids are seen by SIF by the time they're 5 years old. Those kids are Māori, 57% of them. Incredible.
It is. It's very high. It's unacceptably high, and we have to do something. And I do believe that we need to have iwi stepping up. We need to have the Children's Commission need to have a monitoring arm and have an active role within the whole transitional process of how we're going to provide SIPS programs. Because the Children's Commission are the voice of the children and the young people. Without them, we're actually going to fail them again.
Scary too, no mention of disabled children, yet disabled kids within the system are sort of doubly discriminated against, aren't they?
Well, SIPs don't know what to do. They're in the too hard basket. Very often I've had cases where they've got, say, 6 children. All the children are taken away for their safety, but the disabled child is left in the violent situation simply because it's in the too hard basket. Nobody wants the child. The whānau don't want the child. Nobody knows how to deal with the child because we don't understand disability fully as a community either. And so they're left there in the unsafe situation and put even at greater risk. You put them into specialised care, there's often also the risk of abuse. We have one of the highest rates of abuse against disabled people, and yet we have no research, we have nothing out there to tell us what that means and what that looks like.
One of the things that I really liked about this report was that it said that all New Zealanders have a responsibility here. It's not just about government agencies or foster parents. It's about everyday New Zealanders stepping up. How do you see that working?
Well, it takes a village to raise a child. We used to do that as Māori, and of course now that we're urbanised, many of us don't have that village behind us. We need the village, and so we need the experts, the people involved in that care. We need them to become the village, to wrap around that family so that we can become a much stronger and much healthier whānau in the long term.
And one of the striking things too in this report is kids saying we want to have a say. We want to have a say about what happens to us. I mean, I find that really interesting because it's not sort of a traditional model, is it? We don't really ask the kids. No. We know best because we're adults. That's what we think. But not necessarily the best way forward.
That's where the Children's Commission come in, and the say should be there because we have the international conventions which tell us that we should be listening to our children, but we're not. We've got the lawyer for the child, we've got all of those things in place, but we're not providing that. So it's quite easy. Let the Children's Commission have a stronger role and let the children who are in foster care or at risk of foster care be having a voice within the Commission who can also have that voice within SIPs, because it's not always about what's in the best interest of the child. Even though they mean it, they might be well-meaning, it's not always outcome like that. We've got to start realising that the children themselves know what they want.
So we do have to wrap up now, but just very quickly, what is the message that you want to leave us with today?
We need to have the children's voice. We need to have our whānau haua voice out there. And it needs to be at iwi level, at hapu level, at whānau level, and at government and regional, local, national, international. Our children, our young people should have their say. Whānau haua should have their own say. We don't need others to speak for us. We need to speak for ourselves.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koe. Dr Huhana Hickey, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Kia ora.